Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online build video with me, Sherman. Today guys, I'm bringing you something old and something new. So I redid the Paladin build with a little bit more of an advanced update for more in-game kind of play. I thought you guys would like this. I do get asked a lot to do more in-game type builds, so I did it, finally. So here you guys go. The Paladin updated to a more in-game type version. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. As you can see, it's a Breton Templar. Now, Breton isn't necessarily the best race for it. It is a good race for this setup because of the fact that it gives you a lot more magicka and a lot more mag recovery in the race. That's what kind of plays off of the build really well and allows the build to focus more on using the magic abilities that it has. So, taking a look at our stat breakup, we have 10 into magicka, 40 into health, 14 into stamina. This is going to give you a good, well-rounded amount of attributes. So you end up with 25k max magicka, 38k health, 26k stamina. Our recoveries are coming in at 1140 on mag recovery, 589 on health, and 724 stam. Our spell damage and weapon damage aren't super high, but they're high enough to get us through content really well, especially dungeons, dungeon content, and overland content. In trials, the weapon and spell damage is there for other reasons. We'll get to that. Crit's okay for the type of build it is. It's a tank build, so you want a decent amount of crit. You don't need a super high crit, but a decent amount will help you a lot. You can see we have a 2339 spell pen with a 1400 physical penetration. And our spell resistance is coming in at 26,964. That is a lot for a tank in the spell resistance area. But this compensates for the loss of the 4% we're going to get for wearing heavy armor. Now, the heavy armor passive is actually negated a lot because of this. And because of the fact that we are wearing one piece of light armor, and we have CP that kind of compensates for the rest of the missing physical damage stuff, or magic damage stuff. Physical resist is coming in at 21,288. That is unbuffed. Now I will show you what it looks like when it's buffed up. So you guys can see 35k spell resist. We are over the cap, but that's fine. Don't worry about it. It's just going to make you harder you're going to mitigate 50% of the incoming spell damage no matter what, which is good, or any kind of magic damage. Physical resist, we go in at 30k, which is more than enough. And then when you get the buff from anyone casting combat position, combat prayer on you, you're going to get a little bit more physical and spell resistance. Anyways, you are going to be well above the cap on spell, but physical you will be above the cap just by a small margin. I am going to talk about advanced stats of this build. As you can see, our block cost is coming in at 855 stamina. We do have a 26k stamina, so we do save a lot of resources when it comes to blocking. Break free is still really low, or still really high, because of the fact that break free is one of the most expensive stamina costing things, and then dodge rolling at 3940. And then when you look down here, we have a 40% on most of our spell mitigation. Physical mitigation is a little bit low, but again, like I said, when you buff up to those higher values, you end up with a much better mitigation rating there. Right. Moving on now to our equipment. Starting with our monster set, our 5-piece body, and then our 5-piece jewelry and weapons. Starting with the monster set, of course, we are running Swarm Mothers. Swarm Mothers is by far one of the best sets a tank that doesn't have a chain built into its class can use, because it will pull ranged enemies to you when you're blocking. Now, this is more of a block type build, so it will work really good at the higher difficulties and stuff like that. But as you can see, The one piece adds both magicka and stamina. The two piece, when you block an attack from an enemy, that is between 8 to 22 meters from you. You spin strands of spider silk that pull an enemy to you. This effect can occur once every second, so you can do this a lot. You can just sit there and block and pull enemies in. It makes it a lot easier for Templar tanks to be able to draw those enemies to them and pile them up to be AoE down, especially trash bombs. Works really good in some of the dungeons with trash encounters on boss fights as well. Moving on now to the next set. Now this is a crafted set, Hunting's Rage. A lot of people are going to complain that I have this set up on this tank, but I like it because of the fact that it adds weapon critical, it adds max stamina, and it adds weapon damage. This really does play well into the build, and it allows for a lot of flexibility in the build and how it can play. So you're not just stuck playing this as a block tank with little damage. You actually get some damage output with this build. It's really nice. Moving on now to the last set. Now this is a newer set that drops in one of the newer trials. Not super new, but a newer trial. And that is the Claws of Unakrin. Now this set is actually really good. A lot of people use it even today as a tank set. I am not a huge fan of using trial sets a lot of times because you're not just doing dungeons in games, so the like minor Aegis or the minor Savagery doesn't really help, or you know what I mean, minor Slayer, those don't really help outside of dungeons. But the nice thing is that this gives you a lot of stuff that helps you outside of dungeons as much as it helps you in dungeons. So the 2-piece adds max health, the 3-piece, the minor Aegis, which is really good for dungeon trial and arena play, and then the 4-piece adds more max stamina, and then of course the 5-piece. So when you taunt an enemy, you give yourself and 11 group members minor courage for 12 seconds, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 215. This effect can occur once every 8 seconds. That's actually really good for your group. The problem is that you have to taunt every 8 seconds to keep it up, but it is really nice to be able to have minor courage now in a group. Really helps in dungeons for speed clears. Alright, going over traits and enchants and armor types. So on the armor types, we're running a medium helm, light belt. Everything else is heavy. On the traits, we're running the invigorating helm, invigorating on the legs. This gives you more stam and mag recovery, just by a small margin, but it all adds up with all the other stuff you're getting. And then on the traits on the smaller pieces, we're running the sturdied for the block cost reduction, and then on the chest we're running reinforced. This is going to allow for higher resistance values on your chest piece, because it is a heavy piece. It gives you the most value out of all of them. So moving on again to jewelry now, we are running, sorry, forgot to mention the enchant. So we're running 3 tri-stats here. That's going to give you a good well-rounded number of stats. This is going to allow you for more magicka use, more stamina use, and such. And then on the smaller pieces, we're running 4 health enchants to give you that greater health pool. Moving on, jewelry, of course, 2 tri-rune rings, again with weapon damage enchants. This is going to maximize not only your taunt damage, like your damage with certain abilities, it's also going to boost some of the heals that you're going to be using and things like that. That's why we have it here. And then, of course, last but not least, our ring is infused with mag recovery. That's going to give you that higher mag recovery. That's why we have such a high mag recovery, and we want that higher mag recovery to help us sustain better. Alright, moving on to the weapons. Starting with the front bar, we are using a infused absorb stamina enchant. This is going to allow you to sustain stamina with light attacks, with your heroic slash, with your taunt, pretty much anything you're using on the front bar that's weapon related, like your light attacks, heavy attacks, again your taunt and your heroic slash are going to help you get resources back. And with it being infused, you're going to get a higher chunk of that back, but you also get that physical damage debuff, which can put basically like crusher or minor breach on the enemy. Now, you are using Minor Breach with your taunt, but this allows your heroic slash, this allows your light attacks and your heavy attacks, everything to have a chance to apply that Minor Breach. Moving on now to the shield, we are running a Sturdy Shield with the Tri-Stat enchants. Now, Sturdy Shield is going to be the better option here because of the fact that it gives you that reduced block cost by 4%, and then on top of that, you get the Tri-Stat benefit of the 3 stats. Moving on to the next one, we are running a Eunochran Infused Sword again. This one is an Absorbed Stamina. Now, you guys are probably going to be wondering why so much Absorbed Stamina. It's not just for the debuff of the Minor Breach, it's for the return of resources. Sustaining on a tank can be really challenging for a lot of people, so this just allows you to get that resource coming back. Boom, 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 non-stop. You can change to a bow and put a Crusher enchant on it, and in my opinion, that's a lot easier to run with, because it gives you that AoE Crusher effect, which gives you greater light control in applying Minor Breach on more targets, or a Minor Breach type effect on more targets. And then, of course, the Sturdy Shielding with Tri-Stat. And that is our sets. Now, when it comes to food and potions with this, you can run pretty much the Tri-Stat pots. Those are going to give you a really good amount of resources back, and then a Tri-Stat food. I know I didn't mention the Mundus Stone that we were using. I choose the Thief because I want the higher crit capabilities. You can use really whatever you think that you need. If you think you need more health, use the Lord Mundus Stone. If you think you need more resistances, which I doubt you need, or yeah, the more resistances, use the Lord Mundus Stone. And then if you need more health, use the one that gives you that, whatever that one is. I don't know. But there's a lot of different options in what you can go with. Moving on to skills. As with all my builds, I do suggest you unlock any passives for anything you're using. So with like your class, unlock all your class passives, your weapon class passives, of course all armor passives, and any guild skills you might be using, unlock their passives as well. Along with the Alliance War has a few passives I would unlock, which is the continuous attack. This gives you major gallop all the time outside of combat, so it increases your mount speed by 30%. And then support, Magicka Aid, really good passive to have just in case you're using any of the support skills. And then when it comes to racial passives, of course you're going to get all those, but this is the reason why I want to talk about the Breton now. Gift of Magus gives you 2,000 Magicka, and when you're playing a Templar tank, you use a lot of Magicka-based abilities anyways, so having a good Magicka pool and a good Magicka recovery is really important. On Spell Attunement, you get the spell resistance, and you get double the effect on Burning, Chilled, and Concussed. So you're pretty much immune to those damage effects. Not immune, but you take such little damage it's not even noticeable. And then, of course, Magic Mastery gives you the reduced cost of magic abilities by 7%. Now, this is why this is important with the Breton class, or race. So you get the 130 recovery also, but you get the 7% reduced cost in magic abilities. With being a Templar, they get a passive called Restoring Spirit, which reduces the cost of health, Magicka stamina, and ultimate abilities by 5%. So your mag abilities on the Templar as a tank are super low. Like your shield is a lot lower than what it would be for somebody else. Your back bar, Ritual of Retribution is going to be a lot lower than anybody else. And there are other abilities which you can swap in and out if you need them, like Purifying Light. This is a great ability for giving your group a synergy, but it also does a heal over time. But it also gives your group a way of stacking damage, and it's pretty powerful. And of course, there's other abilities that you can use, like the Blazing Spear, which costs you a lot less Magicka, and it allows you to give resources to your group. You can use a lot of the heals, which can help your group in a lot of ways. You can also, with Repentance, if you have it, this is a great way to get resources back for yourself and to give you more recoveries and stuff. But a lot of it has to do with the magic abilities, and when you play a Templar tank, I can tell you you're going to be using this a lot. Alright, and then of course when it comes to crafting, alchemy, medicinal use, provisioning, gourmand, and connoisseur. Now I get asked all the time why I bring these ones up. It's mainly because they help you a lot more at end game. Like when you're doing hardcore trials or hardcore dungeon runs, like the hard modes, this helps you sustain your food and drinks a lot better without having to, well, this one just allows you to use your potions more often, but this allows you the food and drinks to last longer. And if you're using like tri-stat food, it has a 2-hour timer, and if you're running multiple things back to back to back, this allows you to just not have to use that as much, yeah. All right, going over skills on the bars, starting with the first bar, or front bar for skill, is Pierce Armor. Now this does both major breach and minor breach, so you get that high physical and spell penetration debuff on the enemies. Now, because you do have that minor breach, remember that only applies to one target, so you'd have to hit like multiple targets to get that major breach and minor breach. But when you have like heroic slash, having a chance of applying that through your enchant, your light and heavy attacks, and this happens on both bars, it's a really good way to keep that minor breach applied, along with the other ability you have on the back bar to keep major breach applied to multiple targets. Alright, so we have Pierce Armor, does damage. It also is your primary taunt ability, and you can get another taunt ability from the Undaunted skill line. This other one is called Enrage. It does cost magicka, and as you can see, a lot less magicka than most other people would be using, again, because you're a Breton. You can use this mag taunt if you want a range taunt, but I've never seen a problem with needing a range taunt in dungeons and stuff, because I have that thing that pulls enemies to me, and most of the time all I have to do is hit them with a ranged ability and they'll automatically attack me anyways. So really good taunt ability. And then of course next ability is Heroic Slash. This is primarily here for the minor maim, especially on boss encounters. It reduces their damage done by 5%. And then of course it also deals a little bit of damage, and when it critical hits, you can deal up to from between 8 to 11k depending on the damage you're doing. And then of course it also gives you the minor heroism, granting you ultimate. This allows for more Warhorn uptime. Next ability we have is Blazing Shield. Now this is an excellent tank shield ability. The reason why it's best for tanks is because, one, it's a large shield that scales off your max health, and then each enemy nearby increases the shield strength by 4%, and then when the shield expires, when it runs out, doesn't matter how fast, how long, whatever, it will explode outward, dealing 30% of the damage it absorbed to nearby enemies. That's all damage it absorbs. So if they hit you and take out all 11,652 of the shield, that means the shield is going to do more damage in the end to the enemies. So this is a nice like AoE counter attack kind of thing. Alright, next ability we have is Echoing Vigor. Now, a lot of people are going to say, why are you using Vigor? Repentance is better. Actually, Echoing Vigor is better because this one, you can cast it whenever you need health. Repentance, you can only do it when there's dead nearby. And if somebody's already used Repentance to get the health, to do the heal and do the stamina for themselves, you can't use it. Well, now you can, I think. But the point here is that you're not going to be fighting a boss and casting Repentance, because most boss encounters don't have ads, so. And this is just a lot easier to sustain. Next up, we have Evil Hunter. Now, I use Evil Hunter. You can swap this out with whatever you want. I keep it here for the major savagery. It's really nice. And then also, when you're in some dungeon encounters and some trial encounters, there are enemies who go invisible. So allowing your group to see where they are helps out a lot. So this is nice for that. This ability is here just for mainly trash fights, trash clears and stuff. It's a really easy ultimate to build up on a Templar, and that is the Dawnbreaker of Smiting. Now this does deal damage up front and damage over time. It also stuns enemies hit for 2 seconds, so it's a really nice kind of additional CC you can put down, which is great. Moving on to the back bar. First ability we have, and this is where you can swap out for Inner Rage, is Shielded Assault. Now, I like using this ability because, one, you charge in, you hit an enemy, you stun them. I like using this on trash pulls in dungeons. And when I say a trash pull, like, I use this to burst into a room, get that initial hit on a target, throw Caltrops. That way I grab all the attention of all the mobs in there, and it's great for that purpose. Also, it gives you a 6,000 point damage shield for 6 seconds, and that also scales off your max health. Next ability we have is Razor Caltrops. The great ability, does a little bit of damage over time. It does reduce movement speed, which is great for CCing and crowd control in dungeons, especially in dungeons and trials with a lot of trash. And then enemies who take damage from the Caltrops also have major breach applied to them, reducing their physical and spell resist by 6k, of course, for 4 seconds. And this will reapply every tick of damage. Next ability we have this here mainly for a synergy for your group, but also for you to have a way to cleanse negative conditions, and that is Ritual of Retribution. Now, this only cleanses 2 harmful effects, but the nice thing is that it does have that area of effect magic damage, and that increases by 5. The damage increases by 5% per tick. Now, it does tick every 2 seconds. It lasts for 12 seconds. And then allies can activate the synergy to remove all negative effects they have and then heal them for 5,443 health. And it does scale off your highest offensive stat. In this case, it will scale with your stamina and weapon damage. Next ability is Restoring Focus, and we have the stamina version, or we have the stamina, the morph for this that gives stamina back. But it basically gives you your major resolve that increases physical and spell resist. It gives you the stamina every second, and then standing within the rune increases your physical and spell resistance by 50% more, which is also nice. I also keep Evil Hunter back here to increase my critical chance with weapon damage, because I do a lot of light and heavy attacks with my own playstyle, so I like to get those criticals out to help my group increase the group's total DPS. And then last but not least, we have Aggressive Horn, another great ability that a lot of tanks run with. It's a really good group support ability. It increases max magic and stamina by 10% for 30 seconds, and then you give your group major force, increasing critical damage by 20% for 10 seconds. Alright, and that is pretty much it for the skills on the build. Now we're going to talk about the champion points and taking a look at those. With the green tree, and I'm going to say this almost every time in a video, with the green tree there isn't a lot of things you can use for dungeons and trials, but there are 4 that I like to use, and that is Rationer. This adds more time to your food and drink, adds another extra 30 minutes, so it takes it up to a total of 3 hours if you have the passive from the food. The connoisseur or provisioning, connoisseur and gourmand and stuff, yeah. And then moving on to the next one, we have Liquid Efficiency. This is whenever you perform an action, you have a 10% chance to consume a potion without consuming a potion. When you activate one, this is great. This saves you a lot in not only the resource of those potions, but also in the cost of those potions. Other passives here that can help you out is things like Gilded Fingers, allows you to find more gold on enemies or wherever, and then Fortune Favors allows you to find more treasure in treasure chests. Then you have things like the Way Shrine one reduces your Way Shrine cost. This helps you move around maps a lot quicker and more effectively. The Reduced Fall Damage, Soul Reservoir. This one is when you resurrect yourself or another player, you have a chance of not consuming a soul gem. And then, of course, the Steadfast Enchantment allows your weapons to never decay, your enchantments. So Really good. There are a few other ones in here, like the finding greater quality items in the treasure chests. If you want this for when you run dungeons, because you do find treasure chests in them, that's a good one to take. But I still think these other ones are a lot better. That's just my opinion. Moving on to the red tree and passives, the primary focus for this tree is definitely going to be this far side, because you get the things like bash brutality, you get savage defense. It's mostly tanking stuff. But there is one here that I definitely like. I've been using this a lot, and that is the On Guard. While under the effects of crowd control immunity, increase the amount of damage you block by 2% per stage. You get an extra 10% block cost or block mitigation, so you actually block a lot more damage when you're blocking. So that's a really nice one to have. Other things you can get is things like Boundless Vitality. This increases your max health. I use this one on this particular build because we are a Breton. We don't get a lot of health, so this helps us make up that health difference. Of course, unlocking the Hero's Vigor passive is really nice as well, because that's another 1120 health you get. Ironclad, really good for armor. These are the ones I have slotted, by the way. And then Rejuvenation, the recovery. So, passive ones, Defiance is really good. Tumbling, of course. Mystic Tenacity. Sprinter. Hasty. And then, of course, like I said, these four over here are always really good for a tank. I do like to unlock this as well, the Tempered Soul. This allows when you're resurrected to return with higher resources. So this allows you to return with 25% more health, stamina, and magicka when you're revived from which is really nice. So Green Tree again, Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, Steed's Blessing, and Professional Upkeep. And then on the red tree, the On Guard, Ironclad, Rejuvenation, and Boundless Vitality. And then moving on to the blue tree. Blue tree is a little funny one. A lot of people don't know what to really get here when it comes to tanking. But it is good to get all of these passives. So all the passives here, Blessed, the Eldritch Knight, or Insight, Precision, the Tireless Disciple, and then of course Extended Might. In here, you do want to get these because there are certain abilities you might use within your class that have certain effects on them, like magic effects, flame effects, frost effects, shock effects, that kind of thing, and that'll help you get an extra 100 weapon and spell damage on magic attacks. And then the same thing here would give you an extra 100 weapon and spell damage towards your physical attacks or martial attacks. And this also allows you that higher chance to apply those status effects from your enchants, which is really nice. And then, of course, this gives you the offensive penetration. Now, moving down here to Staving Death, this is where you're going to mitigate a lot of the negative impact you're going to have from magic damage. So you're going to get this. And this reduces your magic damage by 4%. So wearing 5 pieces of heavy, you get a 5% damage increase from magic. So this is 4% of that. Then you get an extra 1% magic damage protection from wearing 1 piece of medium or light armor, so you actually negate it completely. And then of course you actually get more physical damage mitigation. But we are a Templar or a Breton, so we actually get more mag recovery or mag resistance. Middle one is really good because this increases your healing taken, and then of course this one, Preparation, this reduces incoming damage of all damage types against PvE mobs, non-player enemies like NPCs. So really good. And then for the blue slotted, I like this combination here. Duelist rebuff. This reduces the single target damage. Unassailable reduces area of effect damage, and then Enduring Resolve reduces the damage over time status effects. And then of course we have Bulwark, which increases our physical and spell resistance for having a shield or frost staff equipped by 1900. This just allows you that greater resistance value. And playing certain races, you're going to have a lower resistances, so using something like this can help you out. When I am not playing in a dungeon, I would suggest going with these ones over here to increase your damage with your damage abilities and stuff. and also taking something like the Reaving Blows. When you deal direct damage, you get 7% of your damage back to you in health. Or when you're doing like Overland and stuff. But that's pretty much it for that stuff. Now, I always like to show the build in action. Now, with this one, particular one, we are going to go and set this to Veteran difficulty. And we are going to go to a particular trial. Not one that I like to really... I really haven't tested in too much, but we're going to go to the newest trial on Veteran mode just to show you the build in action. And just show you how well it can mitigate incoming damage. Now, this trial does have a lot of mechanics to it. I've only ran this one time, and the group I ran it with, we failed. We made it past like the second boss, and that was it. So I'm letting you know that now. But I do know that there is trash in here that we can test the build on and show its effectiveness on survivability.
Reinforce the palisades. We can't lose the king.
Oh, yeah.
Please tell me you're our reinforcements. You look like exactly what we need.
And I don't even know if I'm going the right way. I don't think so, because there is a door over here. Because, like I said, I ran this during PTS, so I have never ran it since then. Try to figure out. So the other nice thing about this tank build is that it's more about, like, bringing... It's not so much about bringing a lot of support as it is about...
I'll tear you apart.
Wow. As you can see, really big mistake right in the beginning. I ran in like a fool without putting down all my stuff really well. So. But you also have to remember, I'm also doing this by myself. I'm not here with a group, so... As you can see, they do go through the shield pretty quick here. But it does hold up pretty nice. I mean, I wasn't burning through a lot of stamina or other things. But the thing else you have to remember, and I'm showing you this just to show you that, yes, the build works. But if you don't have a good group backing you up, and especially in the newer trials, because a lot more of the newer trials have a lot more mechanic focused to a lot of the older trials, this kind of thing can happen quite a bit where you will die continuously. So it's good to have a good organized group that know the mechanics, understand what's going on in here, and all that. But you do get a lot of resistances, like I said. You can change this to Extended Ritual if you want the extra healing for your group. But Caltrops is definitely worth it. Shielded Assault, really nice. And then, of course, you will be blocking and healing a lot. So that's the other point. Other skills that you can change out for Vigor if you want to. Again, you do have the Repentance. Not a great one. Honor the Dead is a great one. Or a burst heal for yourself. It does cost magicka. That's another reason why having a high magicka is really good. Because when you have a high magicka and a decent mag recovery, you can actually use abilities like this, and you're not going to be running out of resources. Because when you're blocking with this, it doesn't cost you, like, take away from your magic.
Have you come here to die like the rest?
And this heal does work a lot better in that sense. Like, it really depends on the dungeon or trial you're in. I'm gonna let these guys get me down a little bit in damage, and then heal. As you can see, it's a pretty decent heal. But now we're out of magicka, we're gonna die. But yeah,
Why fight us?
really good. I really like this build myself personally because it allows for you to tank, um, like in a way that is different from most other tanks, but it is in my opinion, it is a really good tank for dungeons, trials, things like that. And if you are feeling uncomfortable tanking with a build like this, there are other builds or other classes you can use that tank a little better, like the DK, of course, the Necromancer, that kind of stuff. Um, but the Templar is a great tank. It's just a matter of learning its strengths and weaknesses and all that stuff. But that is pretty much it with the build, guys. I hope you guys liked it. I am a big fan of this build because it's what I played for a long time is a Templar tank, so it's something that I really enjoy doing. I love the fact that it's a very supportive class already, but having the ability to play support and a tank is really cool. So,
We have all the
but that's pretty much it for the build, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you guys know what's coming next. You guys can go ahead and hit that like button. Other than that, or sorry, go ahead and hit that like button if you guys want to see more videos by me. Hit the subscribe button. If you want to, if you do subscribe, I do suggest hitting that notification bell. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. What a horrible thing to do, Sherman.